till I came here.
Sword Art Online Lost Song. It's a good game. SAO Lost Song. SAO Sword Art Online Sword Art. So many different ways to say it. Yeah, this is the one out of many Sword Art Online games I played. But it's the only one I finished. Since there's a decent number of them, there's this one, Alicization Licorice, Last Recollection, Recall, I don't know, Fatal Bullet, Hollow Fragment, Hollow Realization. I think that's it, at least the ones I have. There's probably more. There's a lot. And this was the only one out of all those that I actually was able to play long enough and stuck to and finish. The other ones I stuck to them, but the problem was they just got so confusing and so overwhelming the more I played, and maybe I get stuck, or maybe it wasn't so much ever I gave up and never came back, or even if a particular game doesn't have good controls or mobility or gameplay or whatever it is, I like SAO enough to not really care about any of that. But it just so happens out of all those games, it's what, like 5 games, whatever. There's actually another SAO game I haven't even played yet that I have in my backlog. That one's kind of like a... It's the Excel World versus SAO one. I never got into Excel World. It's SAO, but it's probably the one I'm least excited for. That's why I haven't played it yet. I wish I played all these and stuck with them and finished them, because, like, for this to be the only one, I mean, there's plenty of reasons why it makes sense why this is the only one I actually finished, but it's a shame because they're all really good. But they're just too much, man. I don't know. I think you really gotta be disciplined, and I don't mind putting the time in, that's part of the deal. It's not that, it just didn't really ever work out. I don't know. Like Fatal Bullet was my first SAO game, because I really started to get into SAO even more when GGO came out. So because of Sinon, she's my SAO waifu. But yeah, I mean, I started watching this since it came out on Toonami, the show, the anime. And I loved it. MMO, virtual reality, Kirito. If you die in real life. I mean, this and Attack on Titan, like, shook the world. It was a different time. Definitely a much slower, like, you know, kind of whatever time, but man, those two shows alone were just so good. And then you had all the greats before, or during, or whatever, you know, Naruto, Fairy Tail, Inuyasha, blah blah blah. But I gotta say, like, even all those shows, I never really got into DBZ. Pretty much anything like semi-classic. I don't really count Yu-Gi-Oh! And Digimon and Pokemon quite in the same category. But Sword Art Online slash AOT was... They're just in such a high caliber of its own. They're so quality and epic, and the scale of it and the premium. Just, ugh, I love it. But I always liked anime. I never liked anime games. I mean, I had Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, like on the Game Boy, but... And then on the PS2. But when I think back about it, like, now... This is definitely, like, SAO is definitely one of my first few anime games I really started to play and take seriously and actually try them out, and I've played every single other one that I could find since Fatal Bullet. You know, this was a while ago. I don't remember now if it was at the beginning of streaming or before. I imagine it was about the beginning. Well, it's weird though, because I don't remember streaming a lot of it. I think I only streamed it for like a day. So I must have gotten it beforehand, but... Which is weird because it normally doesn't seem like a game I would go after. But I think it just stood out to me so much, and that's kind of how all this SAO started, was... because of GGO, Xenon, Fatal Bullet. That was a great first game. I wish I could kind of talk about all the games, but it's tough because there's so much to discuss within each one that there's just no way. But and I only bring those up because they're just, you know, within the SAO games, it's really easy to kind of compare them and what are the differences, and some are old and some are like brand new. And just kind of giving my reasons of why I only finished this game. Because to be fair, it is older. It's simpler, it's more basic and easy. Well, it's still just as complicated, and the controls, the mobility, the gameplay, the fighting, the combat. You know, sitting through hours of cutscenes slash cutout cutscenes. But it just happened to work out because the game didn't push me too much to where I could still kind of like keep my balance and keep going comfortably and just try to get it done. And I did, and it was a big accomplishment. I can't really say that this is my favorite SAO game out of what I have played, because even the other games, I played a lot of it. I just never quite got to the end. But yeah, I mean, even if there are other games that I like maybe more or less, for this to be the only one that I finished out of all those, it's not the worst thing, because... You know, this does all take place during Season 2 and all that, like, ELO. It's kind of when things really started to change, like, hey, we did SAO, that's kind of settled down for now. Now we're doing this whole new thing. Very good sequel, very good direction, and I think they really stuck to the whole, like, hey, we all got elf ears and we're flying around. It just kind of works as like what it is and when it came about, and worked out pretty nicely. Cutscenes are cool.
キリト君
リーは
まったくもう先にログインしちゃうなんてどれだけ待ちきれないのよ。
すまん。
しょうがないんだから。
Yeah, just like most SAO or anime games, just like really good, very anime-like quality cutscenes, kind of like that. It kind of depends though. It could either be that style CGI or it could be like literal something you'd see in the show, kind of more flat, if that makes sense, whatever it's called. Yeah, there's a, it's just, I don't know, it's just fun. From start to finish, there's like a nice anime intro, and I've seen that in other, it's pretty standard, but definitely something to include because, you know, you're playing the show, you're playing the anime, like it's literally, it's hard to tell sometimes how accurate this all is. Like, is it shot for shot? They leave some stuff out, they put some stuff in, whatever, blah blah blah, but it's literally the anime. And I think that's so cool because the problem with a lot of these licensed type games is that, is it gonna stay true to its material, its sources, and is it gonna be about the same more or less? Is it gonna kind of go a whole different direction than what you might have seen before or didn't know about? Or so the fact that it stays so familiar with what I know ahead of time, it's great. You can't really complain because that's what makes it good. That's why I come to these games, is for that exact reason. Yeah, it's just great. You got to be fair, the game itself, it's just really good. You got like jiggle effects, you got customization, pretty standard for all the games really. And all the games are more or less the same, like, you know, some are newer and look nicer, some are older but still look just as good. Or yeah, you got all the characters, you get to pick your own teams, like it's just great. You get to explore, look around, you know, level up, find items. You can just do whatever you want, whatever you would normally think you could do in this game for what it is. You're like, hey, if it's just like the show, you know, I should be able to do this and that and go here and there and whatever. And that's exactly what you can do. Yeah, I think the one reason why this game worked out so well for me is because here's the thing. We're a real person in a virtual / real world, and most of the time we're in the virtual world, obviously. In a video game, it's a simulation, and a simulation is so with that in mind, it's like, hey, whether the graphics look good or not only is it a video game, it's a video game in a video game. So I don't know, in a weird way, the simpler and the simpler it is, the more basic, I just think it's so much easier to get through and play, because the newer games are just, they still retain that very realistic but you still realize you're in a video game. It's just it's a weird concept, but it just happened to work out here as well as it did because of that kind of mentality and just the way I had to look at it. And yeah, there's also cutout cutscenes.
新エリアに上陸したわけだけど、さて、これからどうしようか。
まずは小手調べとして定番のクエストがいいんじゃないですかね。
Definitely like to include the cutout style ones if I can. Kind of just depends. Anime games are really up and down with you know, is it going to be some cutout thing, which it most likely is. Is it going to be there's some they always have about like what 4 different types of like communication methods and how they're trying to portray the story or whatever, but I wanted to put it in here versus like cutscenes from earlier because I don't get to talk about it too much with the anime games that I have done. Because maybe normally I just settle for whatever, but there's so like I ended up putting about 50 hours in. Supposedly, I think it was more, but you know, you're staring at those cutout cutscenes the majority of the time. Probably more than the gameplay. And the really nice premium cutscenes, just like with other games, you're gonna see it like a few times throughout the whole game. That kind of style, because those are obviously more expensive, and but when you do see them, they're quite a treat. But for the most part, it is the cutout one, which does look really good. You know, sure, they're kind of transitioning into different movements and they're yapping their lips and blinking their eyes, but it's a really static style. But what's nice here is it's not really, it could be way worse. Like, I'm really picky about my cutscenes. Or what a game's excuse for cutscenes would be, but it's really, it's just really well drawn and really well presented and done, and yeah, it's just nice to look at, and it better be because you're stuck looking at it for so long. But I mean, personally, I'm kind of into like actual cutscenes a little bit more, but even those are pretty rare amongst other games because. But obviously, it is a very heavy JRPG, JMMOs, if that's even a thing, kind of style, and I'm used to it, but. And I think a lot of games do that really well, the whole cutout thing, but. All the Sword Art Online games I played, this one, whatever, they just look really good. They're just nice to look at, and they really bring the story through and push things along. And most of it is voice acted, some of it's not. But it's just nice because you're kind of forced to sit there and actually listen and read or whatever, and really just kind of take it all in. I just love the journey and the adventure and the quest and the friends and the bonding and the friendship, and you know, honestly, the last thing I care about is the fighting. I just like when we're all together, and this is like, these are like my friends, and we're living this life, and these are actual real people too, and oh, I just love it so much. We're at our house, especially as a gamer, it's just such a like thing to relate to, and gameplay's cool.
このボスを倒せばクエストクリアです。頑張ってください。このくらいなら大丈夫だよ。
Yeah, that's why you like the show so much, and especially when they're just talking and building up relationships, and when they're just sitting down, getting to know each other, and the how much they've grown and stuck together for so long, and went through so much, and I just think that's crazy. And it's not just through a game, or it's not just in real life, it's both. And it's really something I can relate to because, you know, like everyone goes through stuff, but these people have each other and they find a way and they make it work and they support each other, and I just love seeing that. I've never been into MMOs, but it wasn't even until Sword Art where I was like, you know, this MMO life seems kind of cool, man. You know, you're just really putting in that time and getting to know these people, and who knows where they live or who they are or where they're at or what they're doing, or but just the fact that you came across each other's paths at all and have this thing in common, playing the same game, doing the same thing in real time. You know, that alone is huge. I mean, what a cool way to meet someone. And just the fact that these people can get along the same exact way they do in real life. I mean, if we're comparing it to real life, that's not the most realistic thing that's ever gonna happen, but it's a thing, it's possible. That's what's cool. Meeting viewers or other streamers and content creators, and you know, at events or whatever it may be, I just think that's kind of cool. Just getting to know these people in two different worlds and two different lives, and it's definitely interesting. It's obviously not a very typical normal type situation. Yeah, I mean, the game's really playable. It's time consuming. Gotta have a lot of patience and understanding, and which is kind of the norm. Okay, but I don't know, this game, this may or may not be the only SAO game I can review or talk about, because I just, things just really didn't work out with all those other games, and even the most recent one just kind of never, I couldn't quite, I don't know. But thankfully this game was done in a time where it wasn't punishing really, or like, it just felt really smooth and really, like I wasn't running into like any specific problems. However, the beginning is pretty rough though, because you're learning how to fly, you're learning how to combat. I played Xenon the whole time, so I was just shooting my bow, which made it really easy. I think that was a good strategy, because like even just recently I tried with Kirito more and with the swords and stuff, and it was kind of a pain in the butt. Because you're fighting enemies on the ground, you're fighting them in the air. Do you want to get up close to these enemies? Would you rather keep your distance and have some range, have a little bit more of an advantage? That's what I did, and it worked out pretty well. And obviously there's an advantage to swords too, like maybe it's a faster, quicker fight, but you're also taking more damage, or this or that, whatever. So definitely, but naturally I picked Xenon because she's my wife. So obviously I'm gonna pick her over Kirito or whoever, Asuna, Elizabeth, whoever. Yeah, the game even came with like some cool like outfits to put on. I don't know, I mean, there's not really much to it. Like when I say the game is really basic and simple, it really is. I mean, you're fighting enemies, you're getting swords, you're upgrading, you're leveling up, getting XP, looting items, exploring, fighting, pushing the story along, getting new characters added. You can add new characters into your party. That's about it. I mean, there's a hub system, there's a hub area. It's tough with this game because it's like it's literally so close to the actual show in every single way that if someone's gonna play this game, it's probably because they've seen the show. If someone plays this out of nowhere, I think that'd be very interesting. I don't see why it wouldn't be possible, but it'd be kind of weird. There's like no context, nothing. So you already kind of know what to expect and what to get out of it. I mean, other than that, it's a game. Just by the sheer fact it's the only one out of the ones that I've played, put just as much, if not more or less, hours into all those other games. Like, I got as far as I could until it got to the point where I don't know, I was doing the same exact things, though, leveling up, XP, looting, upgrading, exploring. You know, these kind of games take a lot of time, naturally, and gotta be willing to put that in, but you know, there's definitely a learning curve to just the combat alone, like all the skills and abilities, and it's weird because to me it's not like an MMO like Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV. It's very simple and very easy, but it's so complicated in its own right because of what it is. You know, it's no walk in the park, but it's not really something like quite as heavy or intense as like actual legitimate real MMOs. This is kind of like an anime baby version. I have to give it more credit than it sounds because, like, you know, it's still no easy thing at all whatsoever, but I guess it just depends on who you are and what you're willing to go through, and because of other than the learning curve and the skill curve or whatever, you know, it's no different from any other game. You know, what style do you like? What are your favorite preferred weapons and characters, and you know, you still got to put all your skills and abilities into the right place, and quick actions and items and staying alive. There's a lot to it. That's what's confusing with this game in particular, is because it does kind of meet that middle ground of like, hey, this is really straightforward, but not at the same time. It's weird because the newer games have a much more weird system, but it still pertains that same system here where it's manageable, but just barely. So that's kind of the only warning. I mean, it's like the only downside is that you can't, this isn't just a game to pick up and just start getting into and playing. I think there's a lot of discipline, there's a lot of testing you and pushing you, and but I like that. But that's why I love playing games like this, and then everything else I play is because I really kind of get a super nice variety of all kinds of different things and get to apply those things accordingly throughout. And yeah, I've always liked Kirito, I've always identified with him, always related to him. I think he's a cool, good guy. Definitely one of my top anime characters for sure. Yeah, I just love all the moments in the game, all the twists and turns, the emotions, the drama, the jokes, the happiness. It's everything is in here. It's a damn good time. You're just in your room chilling, the lights off, vibing, just enjoying what's in front of you and sharing it with others, maybe even. And It's just a great sit-down game to just spend some time in and just get lost and kind of take a break from whatever and relax and get all cozy and comfy. Yeah, all around. Sweet game. I'm glad I played it. I'm happy I finished it and I don't regret it. And out of all those games, I definitely don't mind that it was this one particularly, so works out. Yeah, Sword Art Online.